Way. Okay, I think it is live. Amazing, amazing. Just going to check that we are live on Facebook. Da-da-da. Oh yeah, Candy. I can kind of hear the lawnmower man a little bit,
Oh,
but
can
it's nice. It's only
you?
really faint. Okay, I think we are live.
Hopefully
So
they finish soon.
you can see the little eyes come up. Yay! All right, beautiful. Oh, amazing. Welcome, welcome, everybody, to the Bus Witch Soul Chat of the week. We do them every week, but whenever they happen, they happen. And today we have got the beautiful Candy Love, who is one of my darling new soul sisters who's come into my world. And yeah, just so grateful to have you here, Candy. Grateful to have you in my world, in the Soul Seed sisterhood, and yeah, just to be a part of your journey as you share your beautiful light with the world. Um, I just want to say how cool it was to meeting Candy, and you know, when you meet people and you're like, you have these. Sometimes you have these little threads of connection, and other times you have really big threads of connection. So, if you are new to this page, I'll just say who I am. I'm Debbie Lynn Creative. This is my page. Welcome. I'm a soul purpose coach. I am a creative. I am a Reiki master. And so is Candy. So both of us are here on a mission to bring our light and magic to the world and help other people to do the same. So I love those crossovers that we have, and also the amazingness of how we get to express it in our own unique way, which is, you know, the whole soul seed journey, it feels like at the moment. So welcome, welcome, lovely Candy. Tell us a little bit about you. I'd love to know, because I don't actually know, how did you get into the work that you're doing now as a coach and as a space holder, as a Reiki master, healer, leader, teacher, as I always like to put on to the end?
Juicy question. Try not to give you my whole life story, but
Oh,
yeah.
take up
First
space.
of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, I remember when we first connected, and we were sharing like little elements of each other's stories, and we were just like, "Whoa, I did that too. I did that too. I did that too." So I love that we've been like on the similar path and had those key moments that have kind of been a really big part of each of our journeys. So I love that we get to share in that together. So for me, how I started with this journey came through. I was in a bodybuilding competition, so I was doing a bikini competition, and it was not long after I did my first competition that I had a couple of sort of unexplained seizures, and as a result of that, I went into a bit of depression, anxiety, shutdown, isolation, and pretty much put everything on hold to just stop or prevent any further seizures from happening. So, major initiation. And essentially, it initiated me into my creativity because there were a lot of things I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't go out, I couldn't drive anymore, I lost my sense of independence. I couldn't train or go to the gym anymore, couldn't go anywhere by myself, couldn't go to the beach, couldn't swim, couldn't do anything. So I started listening to podcasts, and I decided, I had this kind of epiphany moment where I was like, well, it can either be a really shit experience, or I can try and find the gold in this mess somewhere. And I decided I needed to find some kind of hobby or activity, something I could do at home that was going to nourish me, and something to do, because I just felt like I couldn't do anything anymore. So I started painting, and I'd never considered myself to be creative, never really done any really art or anything like that. And I started just picking colors that really resonated with how I was feeling. And it wasn't until a lot later on that I realized that I was actually painting frequency and painting energy and painting my emotions and allowing that to be a really healing process for myself. So I started painting, and that really kind of opened me up, and I felt alive again, and I could kind of find this whole world of juiciness and joy, even though like I felt like so many things had been taken from me. So that was kind of the creative initiation. And then not long after that, the relationship that I was in started to crumble as well. And we'd been together for 12 years. We were about to get married, and we called off the wedding not long before we were meant to get married. And that took me on a whole second initiation of finding my spirituality, because I was really just like, what the hell? Like everything just felt like it was crumbling. And, you know, I remember just being in my living room on the floor crying with my journal and just being like, I hand over, you know, like, tell me, show me where to go, show me what to do, because I don't know what the hell's going on here. Was feeling really lost. So that kind of was that, you know, rock bottom moment where I came to my knees and was like, Spirit, you know, show me what to do. And through a few synchronistic moments, I connected with some beautiful souls, and I ended up going on a retreat to India. And it was a beautiful 2-week journey with some beautiful women from the US. And yeah, I got to India, and I remember being in Rishikesh in the mountains in the Himalayas, and going down to the river and just setting my intention and saying to Spirit, like, I hand over everything that's not for me. Like, I want to be, show me what my higher purpose is. Like, whatever has to go, I give it up. Show me the way. And I set that intention. And then I came back from India, and I was like, I knew I needed to do Reiki level 1. I did 1, 2, and master level like straight away. And I just deep dove into personal development and coaching and workshops, and just was in that season of my life where I was just like turning myself inside out and just full purification, heart awakening, finding my creativity, my spirituality, my power, and yeah, my purpose as well. So I started doing Reiki from home initially. Then I did an art exhibition, and I shared all of my paintings right from my very first painting, demonstrating my journey through that sort of few years, that deconstructive portal, those few years. And that was all about creativity for mental health. So that was when I really started stepping more and more into my purpose, and feeling like now I'm ready to start sharing my journey, what I've learned, what I've healed through, and now I really want to serve and help other people. And I've kind of just been on this path that was back in 2016. So I've been on this path a few years now, and I just live a spirit-led life where use me, you know, like what am I called to create, and wherever that takes me, who I'm here to serve is always evolving as a many Jen. But yeah, I'm here for the ride, and forever a student. And that's a very quick version, I guess, of
there's so many things in there that I want to go back into, though, because as you've just shared all that, I've even forgotten just how many pieces of our journeys match up. I was thinking of those 3 key pieces that I said in the intro. But the bodybuilding thing, like, I did that too. I mean, I did it many years ago, but it was actually the gym, like stepping back into that same energy at the gym, where my body broke down and I left the building and came back. I've got a bit of a theory about seizures and what happens, and I wonder if we're actually being taken out to retrieve the codes that we need for the next part of our awakening on a emotional or spiritual level, because it was very soon after that I started on my pathway as well, after the body. And it's almost like we have to leave to come back home again, much like you're talking about melting yourself down and to a puddle literally on the floor. And like when you said about handing it over, I actually got like full chills just going up my whole back and arms, because when we have, when you're in conscious awareness to do that, or you have that, I'm always amazed at people like you that you feel like you sounds like you were quite self-led through that, where I felt like I was such a fucking mess. And I was like, what is happening to me? Am I going crazy? Like, am I losing my mind? What's going on? Why don't I feel like myself anymore? Everything's falling apart. Then you had your pilgrimage to India. I went to Bali and had like my first kind of full-on, like, top-down awakening, I suppose, where I heard, I don't know if it was the voice of God, but it was a big old booming voice that was not mine that said, surrender to God. And I was like,
Mm.
And then surrender has not been something that I found very easy. So yeah, talk to me more about the surrender process. Like, did you have to let too much more go? Because it sounds like life had already done it for you. They'd shown you this is what happens when you lose your health. This is what happens when you lose your sovereignty. This is what happens when your heart gets broken. Like, was there anything else, or it feels like you got it kind of all in a really short?
Mm. Well, I would say the path of surrender never really ends truly, but I think after that, after that process, the more I discovered my power, my spirituality, my creativity, and I felt more me, and I built my own kind of confidence and self-esteem and self-worth, that I then, left that relationship and I went on a journey of like going and living on my own, and again, like building my soul tribe, like calling in people who could meet me in that newness, that new identity that I was in, newly forming. And then the next initiation of surrender for me was when I met my now partner, Craig. So we've been together for 7 years. And that was a very different layer of surrender, because it wasn't about letting go so much, but it was, can you let somebody in? And that was even more vulnerable than, after what had happened. Like my body was like, holy shit. Like, like I had to really bring down all of those walls and let myself be seen. And that ended up, I ended up with cystic acne, my body just was like, oh my God, I don't know how to let somebody in. This is way too vulnerable, way too scary. So boom, all over my face, horrific, cystic acne.
Wow.
So, and, that had so many stories of like, he's not going to love you anymore, like, it was a way of putting a wall up of like, how about now? Are you still here? Are you going to stay with me now? Like when I'm in my most like ugly version of me, can you stay and still love me? Oh my gosh.
Isn't it incredible what life will like serve you up to show you what your deepest, darkest beliefs are about yourself, to question, do you want this to be your truth or not? And then, realizing that you can choose. And I love that. Like, it's so true what you say, is that it's way harder to let somebody in than to let people go. It's so much easier to build walls. Or I used to be a bit of a ghoster and just, confrontation or courageous conversations, because my voice was so locked down that I would just disappear. I'll just disappear. It is so much harder to let someone in, isn't it? And it's so fascinating, the whole journey that we take when we meet our soulmate, and we know that they're our soulmate, but trust is not an instant byproduct of knowing that. And true intimacy ultimately is truth, isn't it? It's the pathway to your highest truth for yourself. So
Yeah, I couldn't hide anymore. There was something that Craig, like, he's got such a beautiful energy, but it was just like, you can't hide here. And I was just like, oh shit. Like,
I love
so
it.
Beautiful.
And I think it sounds like it's interesting that we're talking about this, and then here you are doing a live video, because we've had a bit of a discussion about being seen and coming out of the spiritual closet a bit. And in Soul Seed, we're really playing with like, how visible do we actually need to be, but more so in what ways, I guess. So firstly, I want to celebrate you for being super brave and doing a live stream. But it's almost like the relationship pieces are a gift, aren't they? Bringing us into that full receiving of self, so that then we feel safe to be fully seen and received by the wider world, because, you can't control how anybody sees or perceives us, but it's so fucking freeing once you just choose to acknowledge, witness, and receive yourself, and then it actually doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks. So I'm really excited as to what's going to unravel for you further in your business from this new level of visibility. I want to go back to the art space now, because I too had and around that same time that it was very close to the Reiki awakening for me too, was art. Maybe I can't remember which one came first. I'd always been creative and had an art journey, and then 20 years of nothing. Bit of a pause there in my manifestor energy flow. I find it fascinating that the creative reawakening, I'll say for me, happened with the awakening, happened with the attunement to Reiki and being able to, it's not even being able to, because I believe everyone can do it, but giving yourself permission to let energy flow through and to feel that, and then to work with that, and then eventually master that. Because like you, I mean, I had trained in photography, so totally just feeding my perfectionism and my lack of trust in myself with the paintbrush. I always wanted to be a painter. I used to go and hang out with the painters at art school and just watch them and just wish and be like, oh, but I'm not a painter. And then when I started painting, I actually started like finger painting like a child. But yeah, a lot of them, those I've kept all my early ones too, because I still am fascinated by them, because and thank you for just landing that piece for me. They're expressions of energy moving through, and they don't need to really mean anything more than that. But I also believe, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, that when we're tapping into creative energy in that state, like today I had to explain to somebody what light language was, just in really simplistic form. And I said, it's like an abstract painting. We've gone outside of like words and what this has to mean into just an expression from the higher self, from the soul. And so I've got this theory that when we are tapping into that and able to actually bring it through, it's almost like making Reiki seen. You know, my Reiki master was an artist. She used to say her paintings were making the unseen seen. And I also think that we're activating higher knowledge and wisdom that, yeah, it might just look like smearing on a canvas, but I believe that it is actually propelling our soul forward on the path that we want to go. This is all just what I think.
Yeah, well, I think initially on my journey with my painting, it was a way for me to express how I was feeling, because often, like, when I looked back and I was naming my paintings, I was like, oh yeah, that kind of matches what I was moving through in that stage of my journey. But as you said with the Reiki, I think the further I went on my journey and I started reopening to my spirituality, and not to say that the healing's ever done, but I got to a point where I was out of most of the shadow of it, and I was able to tap more into the painting of using it as a form to step into altered states of consciousness and flow state. And then when I was in that state, when I was moving the colors and just in the energy of receiving where the painting wanted me to go, that was when it kind of took a different flavor. And for me, I would set my intention before I painted. I would put Reiki symbols in my paintings, and I believe that my paintings are healers themselves, and they hold certain frequencies, and whatever energy that they need in that space, that's the essence that they're transmitting into the room, into the place, into whoever's open to receiving that frequency. So I've never done art that's not abstract, because for me, that takes me into the mind. When it needs to look like something, then I step into my own perfectionism and I beat myself up because it's not how my mind wants it to look. Whereas if I let go and I'm just in the abstract of how does this color want to be moved and expressed, and what is that energy like, and where is it taking me, then I'm transformed while I'm painting. And it's kind of like a two-way healing process that happens for me and the painting and wherever it's going to end up.
I love that. That's almost like Reiki 1, 2, and 3, as explained through art right there, isn't it? Healing for self. Then we go a little bit like, oh, who can I help with this? And then it's like, and then it's collective. I think what I'm feeling and receiving from what you're saying too is that this actually feels like the embodied practice of surrender. Because if you're not, if there's no set outcome, you're giving yourself over to what wants to come through, regardless of what it looks like, or there's no shoulds, there's no expectations, and that is surrender. So cool. Yeah,
It's creative freedom.
yes. Yes. So embodiment, practice of freedom. Oh, I totally agree with you about the healing aspect as well. And I learned that through the hard way of doing opposite, which seems to be my go-to strategy in life, where I joined like one of those art trail type things. And the main there was it was a lot about sales and selling, and I just went into it because I had things to share, and then I got caught up in the, oh, but it's supposed to be da 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 da, right? And then I think it was halfway through setting it all up, my husband said, "Are you doing this because it's an art exhibition? Are you doing this to try and sell them?" And I was like, "I don't know anymore. I've lost myself." And I think I rearranged the whole thing. And as I did so, as I was moving the paintings around, I heard like one of those divine drop-ins that said, "These are not going to sell. These certain group of paintings, they are for you. They're healing codes. You still need the medicine, and they'll go when they need to go." And I've found that it's like some of the ones they have, I've only sold a handful, but it's just intuitive. Like someone's coming to my house and I just go get it out and I'm like, this wants to sit here with our conversation, and I will go home with that person because it's got what they need now. And I love that. I love that. I've got proof as well. How cool is this? I did one day, and it was one of the 2 times only where I have been in that total super consciousness that you're talking about, where you lose time because you're in such a high frequency that you've actually gone into alignment with source, and there's no time in that space. It's fucking brilliant. So I started in the morning about 9, and I think my parents were meant to be coming over for dinner, and they arrived at the door where I was painting, and I was like, "You guys," it's like, and they were like, "It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon." I'm like, "Oh my god!" Literally just
I mean, for 9 hours.
I'm gonna go and peel some potatoes. But this painting came out, and as I looked at it and was just like, "What is this not about?" But like, what's the energy of this? And it was like, this is about your lower back pain, your lumbar spine. This is a healing code for that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I had chronic lower back pain on and off for about 6 years as part of my awakening. That's super fun. And then I took it into this place where I was working, and I was walking it past this woman, and she went, "Oh, is that for sale?" And I was like, "Well, if you want it, yeah." So she bought it on the spot. And then I said to her, I painted it when I had a really sore back, and I think it's got healing codes for the lower back in it. And she goes, "Oh my God, Debbie." And she turned around and lifted her jumper up, and she had like a massive scar up the whole of her lower lumbar spine. It had all her vertebrae fused. And I was like,
my God.
oh. So maybe it's not going to help her physical body because she's already had that surgery, but it's going to help her with the emotional or spiritual, whatever's behind that. Because we always know there's like a whole other story. Anyway, that just had to be said.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And my experience has been very similar with my paintings that, I've put them up in shops, or I've done an exhibition, or I've put them up for sale, but it's never worked that way. It's always like when it needs to go to someone, like, you're the guardian of this now, so it needs to be yours. And when I left New Zealand, I actually gave a lot of them away because I was like, okay, clean slate. I'm not taking all of these with me to Australia. Bear in mind, I had already spent thousands of dollars shipping them to New Zealand and then now shipping them back to Australia. So I was like, okay, what ones want to stay with me and want to come, and be part of my next stage of my journey. So I did release a lot of them at that time, which felt really, really good. But I've still got so many boxes. I've got like 30 something paintings. So it's kind of like, what do I do with all of these?
Well, maybe we'd love to see them on the old social media, and they might be carrying a healing frequency to someone that just is like, "Hey, Candy,
possibly
we'd like to take that from you." And so tell me, are you using your creative process in any of your programs that you have got coming up?
Definitely. So I've got Activate Your Purpose, which is a journey through the artist's way, which is Julia Cameron's book. And that is all about creative living and all about weaving your creativity and your spirituality into how you live your life. It's about weaving it into everything, how you see the world, how you draw purpose from everything that you do. Because I really believe that when we tap into that sense of purpose, we're always where we need to be. And it's about, what can you draw from this experience as a learning, as a way to find more of yourself, more of your power, more of your, authentic essence. So the artist's way, or, activate your purpose, is very much a journey of coming back home to self, back to your spirituality, and back to your creative practice for yourself, first and foremost, so that, you can serve from overflow.
Amazing. And there's so many beautiful, I was just sitting there in the studio one day, because I hadn't integrated creative stuff in my coaching work at that time, or healing space. It was all kind of sitting separately, couldn't see how to put it together. And then as I was in there creating myself, I was like, wow, there's so many aspects of, like, say, what you would do I just done a program with someone where there was like a module each week about like boundaries and mindset and this and that and the other. And as I faced all my shadows, I was like, all of this comes up when you sit down to create something. All of this comes up, like, what is really the point of it all? And like my relationship with time, or my perfectionism, and I find in that space too that you can really hear your inner critic. You can hear the voice, fear-based mind that's not the truth, and it starts to become like, oh, that's not me, that's that version, or someone else's voice. Like, there's just so many gifts, isn't there, to be gleaned from using the creative process as opposed to trying to make art. And it's a spiritual process. Whether people want to admit that or not doesn't really matter, because I believe, I don't know about you, but at the heart of it all, our purpose is just to be ourselves, and our purpose is to create, and creating also being receiving life, receiving ourselves. So that's amazing. So is it tell us more about the program. Do people need to be creative beings? Do they need a lot of materials? Do they need an art studio? How does it all work? Those are the things I can't. I don't that or that or that. And I'm like, it doesn't matter.
So that's one of the reasons why I renamed the program from The Artist's Way to Activate Your Purpose, because I felt like a lot of people immediately saw The Artist's Way and thought, oh, it's about art, when it's really not. It's about making your life your art. And so, something I want to speak to is that, when I paint, or when I'm in my creative space, that's when I've created room for spirit to come in and meet me. So when I paint, that's when I get my downloads. When I'm journaling, that's when my higher self steps in with a different perspective. So the core principles of The Artist's Way is about making and carving out that time for yourself to tune in, to connect to yourself. And for a lot of women, we find that actually that's the hardest thing to do, because we're so busy being everything for everybody else. There's all these excuses why you can't, carve out an hour or 2 hours a week for yourself to create, just for the fun of it, like just to be in your own energy and to open up and to receive your own guidance. Because when you're tapped into that, then you're given your next steps about where you need to go, what's in alignment, what's not, who needs to go, who's, coming into your life, what you're here to create. So The Artist's Way has, I've got the book here, and it's set out as like 1 week per chapter. So at the beginning of the week, I'll deliver a teaching based on the themes of the week, and I'll weave in my own stories, my own experiences, guided practices, and we journey through the chapter together. And then in between, you go and you read the chapter as a way to kind of integrate it and filter it through your life and make the changes that you're guided to. And there's also suggested practices as well that you can kind of pick and choose from based on what resonates with you. But the most powerful part I have experienced is doing it within a group, because not only have we forgotten to take time for ourselves, we've forgotten to connect with like-minded women and to be part of community. And I've seen that so much since COVID as well, that a lot of people feel like they don't have their soul tribe, or people who are on that same path of looking for a higher purpose, or wanting to start their own business, or wanting to bring their visions and creations to life. So doing it as part of a group who are all on the same journey together is so powerful. And also, as we're moving through those limiting beliefs around what it means to take time for ourselves, to prioritize ourselves, to be creative, to to live the path less traveled. You know, we remember that we're not alone in that, and that, you know, being part of a community while you do that is super healing in itself. And I always find the group just bonds and end up being friends for life at the end. You know, there's just a real soul connection that happens. So yeah, I really love teaching this. And the other beautiful thing that I always find is that this process is always weaved with an energetic component. So whenever we'd get to the class at the beginning of the week and I'd introduce the topic, everyone would be like, no way, like that's been coming up for me. So it has an energy of its own, and it's just miraculous how it guides people to you know, to come back home to themselves and their own gifts and, you know, what you're called to create. So yeah, it's a really beautiful journey.
Well, I suppose like further to what you were saying before, like the book itself, just like the paintings, has its own energy and its own essence, that it's like sort of like I'm seeing it like a crystal, like holding the, or like the fire at the hearth that you all gather around, weaving together. There's so many different threads coming in there. And I guess, and I love that. I agree with you so much, so deeply about the connection piece and the group programs. Like, I just freaking love a good group program where everybody's all in it together. And yeah, after COVID, like we did see a lot of connections were severed, and you know, people like me that like to hermit and fly solo were like, yeah, cool, full permission. But it's like, we got to come back out now. We got to come back out into the community, because we're actually not meant to do it alone. And it's actually like so powerful and freeing when you can like share your shit and out yourself with your sisters and realize that people still love you anyway. And that in itself is so freaking powerful. I love it. So great.
There's always cross and, you know, one person always is like, oh, this is how it's showing up for me, and then the other person's like, oh crap, I hadn't even considered that. And you know, it magnifies the teachings because it's then applied to real life stories, and so everyone is contributing, and it's a co-creation from the group, you know, how we move through each of the chapters and how it's presenting in each person's life, which is obviously very different. So I feel like it amplifies the teaching, but also, you know, there are chapters where we want to run away, where our stuff comes up, where we want to run and hide, or we want to abandon, or we just want to go back to our old patterns. And so when you're in a group and there's a container and there's other sisters who are in that messy middle together, you know, you're more likely to ride through that and come out the other side and you know, discover that new version of you that you've perhaps not been able to lean into on your own. So I feel like that's another powerful, potent part of being in a group and having that accountability in a loving, you know, community who are like, yeah, this is uncomfortable, you know, like we're riding new patterns here. So
yeah, I love that. And I love the you know, the word accountability used to scare me, because it's like, oh, that means I have to do XYZ, tick the box, but it's not that at all. It's literally just being witnessed in it, isn't it? And held to your heart. Somebody just shine the light for you and see you and receive you. And I love it. I love it so much. I'm also really really excited about something you said, and I can't remember the exact words, but it was about around like the carving out time and the making space and the you know, allowing ourselves, I guess, that space to be creative outside of like having to do anything or produce anything or make any money, because I really feel like there's an opportunity here, because I'm seeing a big shift in like business at the moment, and then female business, and especially spiritual and heart-led entrepreneurs, where we are not feeling it in the 3D business world. Because if we are chasing dollars or needing to prove it that we are successful or valuable or any of those things, like that shit is just not working anymore. So if we're already filled up and we know that we're our purpose and actually that's it, everything else we get to do on top of that is just like fun, playing in the sandbox of life, right? Have you had this experience? I've been unhooking from these big pieces lately of where I've been outsourcing my power and morphing my identity to fit these different structures, when I was just like, actually, fuck the structures. I'm the structure. I'm the medicine. I'm the modality. I'm a rebel. I want to do it my way, not in a throw my toys out the cot kind of way, but just like the artist way. I want to create what feels good. I want to enjoy myself.
Yeah. Amen to that.
How's it
Amen
created
to that.
your business and your own personal journey?
Yeah, I would say like initially when, in the early days, starting my business and like having an outlet for my creativity through my business was a nourishing way to channel my creativity. But as I've gone through that process as well, I've had to be really mindful about keeping some of it just for me. Because, when you're a personal brand and you're sharing your behind the scenes and you're sharing your practices and you're sharing your life and all of these things, sometimes it can get a bit like, but what's just reserved for me? Like, what if I didn't have to share this? What if this was for my own practice only and it wasn't about it needing to be content or needing to even be part of my program? What if it was just purely no strings attached for my own heart? And that is a really challenging thing as a creative and as a visionary and as someone who wants to serve and help other people. It's a whole other game to then say, what if I were to just keep some of it just for me and to not share it? But it's kind of like a boundary of like, what is just for you? It's the same concepts, but now it's just applied inside a business. So where do you take the time just for you? Or have you turned everything into service? And
I feel like
sometimes that can be a fulfilling
because I was like, yeah, I did do that, and I did. And what it did is it like dampened my enjoyment, and then I don't want to go to the art studio because in my subconscious, it's like you're going to work. If you've got your phone filming every fucking thing that happens in there, I did, like had that journey last year, and I was like, oh, it's taking me out of my. Just exactly what you said. Like I think you do need to just keep these certain sacred pieces just for you. Just like I'm not like, and I don't like making content of people in a process. I'm just like, well, it's not a sacred process. It's content.
It's no longer my sacred place to receive just for me. I remember watching your overflow masterclass yesterday about the colander. It's like it just goes through the sieve because it's all of a sudden it's like, what's this going to look like on my camera? This is going to be worthy of showing. Even if it's messy, I'm still thinking about, I'm no longer in my process, just in it. I'm filming it. What angle am I? Like, you've already lost it. You've already stepped out of receiving this purely for yourself. And I feel like that's such a practice as a creative to keep that for yourself, because
when you take this into the art studio, you are probably not going to tap into the superconscious today. You might create some cool stuff, but you're probably not going to get to that place of surrender with the.
You're also not going to go as deep into your own process because you're still on the surface of what does this look like? How are they going to get something from it? What can I turn this into? You've missed it.
Oh, this is amazing because I've just been on a big journey with the body and healing my gut and making the connections between like leaky gut. Same thing as what we're saying, like the energy coming in, and then it's like, but it all gets leached, it all gets taken from me, but we are allowing it to happen potentially with the oversharing. And this is where it gets really interesting about our visible, how visible do we want to be in our business? We need to be visible. We need to show people what we do. Yes. And there's always an and. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I think that's really cool what we're uncovering here, is that it's
how it feels to the individual, I think. And it's a different layer of boundaries, because in the beginning of the initiations, the boundaries were about what's not aligned, like what do I need to remove? But then as you step into more of a purpose-led life and you're like, I'm having fun, I'm creating, like this gets to be fun, sometimes we need to have boundaries around our fun. And this sounds really weird, but to have boundaries around our fun, because otherwise, again, it's all for everybody else and it's never just about us. So sometimes having a boundary between like, serving my clients at, crazy hours at night or whatever, but it's fun. It feels like I'm lit up, but it's still, I've lost myself because I'm no longer aware of where I end and where my work begins. And that's when I feel personally that sieve comes into play, because it goes through and I don't notice it as much because it's fun, but it still is an energy leak.
Yeah. And sometimes we can get, well, like I come from something I journeyed deeply with last year was really stepping into recognizing that oftentimes going into my business was a trauma response or another avoidance tactic. Like, it's not always drinking wine or watching Netflix. It can be like being on my freaking computer making shit that doesn't even matter right now, instead of like, you know, being in the presence of life. And that I'm still working on that, like with a lot more greater awareness now. But it's especially, I think, you know, it's a gift to be able to work from home and have all the freedom and all the things. And I played through experimentation this year with like, okay, so how much can I give? How much can I be in it, but also be receiving? And then where is that edge? Like you say, takes a lot of awareness to then feel stop at the end of the week and go, well, how much energy have I got left, or how am I feeling, or why is my body always gets sore? So I know that means I didn't make enough space for my own shit to move through because I just was always on, or whatever it is. So I love this conversation. So this sounds like you're, if anyone resonates with any of these patterns of either overworking, busyness, or distraction, or just not making time for themselves, that your program would be a great reset point for them to actually, because it's the committing to the time and the space, like, you know, that I think that's such gold. And it would be for me, like that would be a key reason why I would say yes to this, because I know myself and I know that I struggle to prioritize things just for me. So when does it start?
It starts on the 28th of October. So we have a weekly class on Mondays. I think it works out to be 4 p.m. New Zealand time, 11 a.m. Perth time. I'm in Perth. And so we have a class once a week.
I just said it's online, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is online. And there are replays available. So, you know, if you can't come live because of work commitments and things like that, you can still receive a lot of the medicine from that process. So, yeah, can't wait to start it. I love it because every time, it's the 4th time I've done it. And every time I receive a new layer as well for myself. And it just keeps reminding me, because, you know, as we say, the work's never done. We're always like, okay, where have I slipped back into those old patterns, or how are they presenting now differently based on where I'm at in my business now? So yeah, you can do, it's like a life Bible. You can never, you know, like you can just keep coming back to it again and again and again and again.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. And what else have you got on at the moment? I was just going to go to your beautiful list that you've given me, but you can just tell us.
Yeah, I'm in a bit of a creative bubble at the moment where there's just loads coming through. So I've got a masterclass next week called Soul Fueled Success, which is all about same concepts. How can you create your business sustainably without sacrificing your energy? And so we're going into a lot of those concepts around the wounded healer and how we can stay in our sovereignty and in our sense of self while being of service. So that's another magical masterclass next week. I've also got a Heart Awakening retreat in Ubud, Bali that's coming together next year, September. So if you've always wanted to go on retreat in Bali, then absolutely send me a message, because I've got a wait list starting for that while I gather or formalize all the details. But it is a stunning venue. I can't wait. I went and visited the venue while I was in Bali just a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, it was just absolutely gorgeous little place in the country, and it's just beautiful. So
tell me more about this, because I literally just said it out loud to my husband. I was so in tune out, because we were planning a family holiday to Bali, and I've just put together a retreat just now, and I was just doing the final tally up because I didn't sell many last year. I sold out this retreat. This year I didn't, and so I was like, I was a bit scared to do the whole numbers. Have I? We did it from love and purpose, but there was also a little bit of accounting stuff which I didn't really want to look at. So I did. And I was like, actually, I'm okay. I'm okay. And then I was like, I just had this moment of like, how cool we get to create these multi-dimensional businesses that allow us, because my husband said to me, great, you get to go and have a 5-day holiday with people that you absolutely freaking love and receive while you give. And I was like, fuck yes. So doing the family holiday thing to Bali. And then I was like, damn it, why don't we just run a retreat? I run a retreat while we're there, and then the family comes at the end. Like that's my big dream for them, and in that it's not necessarily like the main money making driver of my business, but what a fucking amazing way to receive back from the business, to get like a paid holiday and maybe treat the family while you're there. Like, how lucky are we? This is crazy.
Yes. Well, one of my biggest values is like travel and adventure. If I'm in the same, as a manager, and if I'm in the same environment doing the same thing over and over, and
So
it's not a vibe for me. I need fresh environments. I need adventure. I need exploring. And I love to travel. I've done India, I've done Bali, I've done Thailand. And I just love traveling to new places. And so I was like, how do I get paid to go on holiday? And so, yeah, when we were over there, I was like, okay, I'm going to check out some retreat venues, because now I'm in Perth, I'm close by. And yeah, Ubud especially has a special place in my heart. It's really, it's in the jungle, it's quieter, it's away from the hustle and bustle. And yeah, the venue is just absolutely gorgeous, stunning. We've got private chefs with organic food. We're going to go to the temples. We're going to have a Balinese blessing at the opening and closing. There's a sound healing and cacao ceremony, and just, yeah, beautiful spaces that even just looking at the photos, I'm like, oh my God. So I just, yeah, I'm really excited to launch this. It is a real edge for me. I last co-hosted a retreat in India in 2017 called Let Go and Let India. Again, that surrender theme of like handing it over. And yeah, what's really coming through energetically is heart awakening. So yeah, I'm calling in women for that journey who are coming home to themselves and who are ready to crack open their hearts to themselves, and to, yeah, their higher purpose and what they're called to. So obviously that's going to look different for everyone. But yeah, Bali has such a beautiful energy. And I feel like when you take yourself out of your everyday environment, you get a whole new perspective on your life, on your patterns, on, yeah, just everything that's part of your normal life that you're like, oh, okay, I can see it now because I can't when I'm in it.
No, you can't when you're in it. You can't. You think you do, you don't. Not the fullness of it anyway. So powerful, you know. I just went away like to our family batch for 4 days, and I was thinking, well, nothing's really happening here. I'm not really having any big epiphanies. I didn't do my breath work, and I was like, but as soon as I came home from there, it was just like boom, 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 boom. It all landed, and then Bali, as you say, is just next level. And when I went there, like it was a chakra awareness yoga retreat. So we did yoga in vinyasa in the morning, yin in the night, and they had all this other circle time and workshops and things planned, and we didn't end up doing any of them because Ubud itself offered up so much to do. And like you say about the containers, so many of the best breakthrough moments and deep intimacy shares happened like traveling around in the back of the car, going to the next place with a woman we didn't even know. And yeah, it was so activating in the land itself. And just there's this beautiful sense of peace there, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, for myself, I think, you know, so much of that healing journey and those activations happens in the space in between. So I'm very mindful to have, you know, activities and you know, a bit of that travel and adventure, but also plenty of downtime so that you can receive what you need to receive and to deeply rest. Because how many women are, you know, doing everything for their family, for, you know, their businesses, and what is it like to step away from that and to not have to think about the meal planning, the groceries, the washing, the cleaning? When you take all of that load off and you step into a beautiful environment where you have no responsibilities other than yourself, that in itself is very activating. So,
It's fucking
we're
priceless,
really
Candy, is what it is. Like, one of the biggest blocks for me was because when I went on mine, I'd never done anything like that ever. I'd never even sat in a circle, let alone gone. I'd done yoga, been a yogi for years, and so just to even book the ticket, actually rewind, saying that I wanted to go was one of the biggest activations. How can I ask for this when I'm not working, when I'm not making any money? How undervalued are we as mothers when we think that we don't deserve a fucking holiday? So even I'm getting teary just talking about that. Even just that moment, I reckon that changed my whole freaking life. Never mind the fact that amazing magical experiences there, which spiritually awakened me. Like, that was a powerful spiritual awakening. I'm allowed to actually ask what I want, have my needs met, and my desires met more so. It was so powerful. And one of the best parts was coming back to the room, and they'd done my laundry and folded it up, and I was like, I didn't have to do any washing.
I don't have to do anything, like it just removes that invisible load that you carry just for 7 days where it gets to be about you. And, I remember feeling the same when I went to India the first time. I was like, if I tell anyone I'm going to India by myself, I'll back out. So I was like, I'm going to book my ticket before I tell anyone. And so I was like, I'm going to make sure I'm committed, and I'm too far gone before I tell anyone, because I know, like, the doubt will come out. Everyone will start, why are you going to India? Or, like, it's not safe to travel by yourself or whatever. And I don't care. I'm going. I've got a legitimate, retreat. I know who I'm going with. I feel good about this. I'm called and I'm going. Yeah. You can worry about your own fears. Thank you for being concerned. But this is something I have to do for me, and I'm doing it. It's done.
And I think that's a good point to make as well, too, is that some people are great travelers and adventurers, and you've got people like me who become like a slightly challenged person out in the world when it comes to following instructions or signs or organizing shit. So if I can buy a retreat where someone says just come, or you got to just get on the plane and the rest is all taken care of, like, that's a massive win for me as well.
Airport transfers included. So the car's already waiting for you. So you don't have to think about anything. They take you there, they drop you off, pick you up, everything's taken care of. So you don't have to think about any of it. It's just, I can't wait for it. The more I talk about it, the more I'm just like, oh my God, we're doing this.
Yes, you so are. Maybe I'm coming. I don't know. Feels like it. That. Oh, incredible. So you've got the retreat, you've got your amazing creative awakening, make space for yourself, come home to you. And then I know that you work with people one-to-one and at higher levels of service if they want deeper support, or they want to go like, what are the levels and layers between your other 2 programs that you have around purpose?
Yeah, so I've got Path to Purpose, and that's a 6-month journey, and that's for you if you're feeling called to step into your soul work. So that's at the beginning stages. You're thinking about launching, and you're very much still in those personal initiations. Perhaps your relationships are crumbling, or you're, really in those early stages of speaking up for yourself, prioritizing yourself, and like starting to take moves towards your purpose. That's the kind of 6-month program. And then I've got a 10-month journey called Luminary Lightworker. And that one is if you have been in business for a couple of years, you're still kind of figuring it out, or perhaps you get lost in the procrastination or the overwork or the overwhelm. And it's about building it sustainably. So that's working with your menstrual cycle, creating from spirit. So, if you've gotten lost in the mental realm of how you have to do everything, and you want to come back to your essence of your business, of why you started this, what is spirit guiding you to create? Why, is it fulfilling you? What are you called to create, regardless of all of the outside noise, and to come back home to yourself and to do that without burning out, so that your business is sustainable long term and it is fully aligned with you, energetically in all of those ways.
It's soul alignment. This is what's been landing for you. Soul alignment. And I think because we've been through so many power portals energetically this year, everything that's not in alignment with that is now showing itself quite radically. And so it feels like this could also support someone who they might have been doing it for a while and feeling like, why isn't it working? Why aren't things working? And whatever we're pushing hard against right now is exactly, you've got the medicine there, bringing back to why, what lights you up. Let's get back into and the juiciness of it.
Underneath all of the sustainability part of it, as well as around working with the nervous system and understanding how your nervous system responds in your business, and ironing those out so that you're taking action at the right time for your body, so that you're working at your nervous system speed when you're creating your business, rather than creating from logic and overriding the body and just disconnecting from yourself. So we're bringing it all the way back home to the body, to your soul, to your spirit, and to your creativity, and creating from that place, because it needs to be sustainable. We're not here to create for a year or 2 years. We're here because this is our life's work. It's what we're called to do. It's what we want to spend our life doing. So we want to do that in a way that's sustainable and long-term and fills us at the same time.
It's like the words I'm hearing are a slow burn, and also like I'm being shown like a marriage. You're committing to this, and that's like a heart awakening energy, as I've discovered, like moving away from these heavy words like discipline into just commitment, knowing that it's going to have its ups and downs, but we're not giving up. We're committed. We're riding the waves. We're learning how to do it better and better all the time, and that's okay. Speaking my language.
Spirit will, not my will. Not my ego's timing, but my spirit's timing.
Yes. Because if you don't listen to that, then life will just serve you up a few little ego deaths. That's been my journey this year. I was like, but it's all a gift, isn't it? And once we start looking at it through that lens, then it just gets to be funny, which is awesome.
There I am doing it again. Dang.
Always learning, always growing. That's what we want, isn't it? We want to be, that's what we want. Yes. That's fulfillment. Oh, beautiful, Candy. It's like we've been talking for 56 minutes already. I feel like we only just started this, and I don't know what I asked you or what I didn't ask you. Is there anything else you want to share or talk about?
I feel like that covers a lot of ground, really, a lot of background about me. I will also just say that I've loved being part of Soul Seed as well. I love being part of Soul Seed and being part of community. And, again, because, this journey of being an entrepreneur, there are ups and downs, and there are glamorous and not so glamorous moments. And so having a community where you can go and you can share in those ugly moments where you're in your own wounds or in your self-doubt and all those stuff's coming up. You've got somewhere to share those with people who totally get it. And not to mention, the potent clearings that I've received from you, Deb, as well, that have been, miraculous over the last couple of months as well. So, yeah, I loved being part of your Soul Seed group as well.
Yay, thank you, beautiful soul. Yeah, I'm just really seeing and feeling, and as we walk this path of like the rebels of the light, as I like to call us, and tapping into our own unique way and our own original way. And I'm like, I've been really looking at who I want to serve and who I love serving, which is people like you, the creatives, the visionaries, the artists of life, which is what we are really. We're not like in business, and that word is even just becoming one that's kind of falling away a bit, as we are our purpose, and we just, as we expand in ourselves, then we want to overflow and share it. But I think it is like, I'm feeling a real shift to just actually focus more on the energy work, the deep healing, because that's where the shifts are. I've spent all of this year like strategy and going, and I had a really potent year last year without any of it.
Yes. Well, the soul alignment has to come first and foremost, doesn't it? Because if it's not aligned soul-wise, it doesn't matter what you try and implement or what skills you try and learn. If it's not from in my experience, if it's not from source, if it's not from my higher self, it just doesn't work. I've tried so many things. but the things that work make no sense.
And I think it's being able to tap into what it, like for me, it's like what's happening in my body. And I learn this through doing all the things that don't feel good to go, oh, it's this kind of a feeling, like something kind of crumbles in the top of my solar plexus, and I feel like I'm becoming small or I'm in some way wrong. And so knowing now that that's actually not a problem, that's just that's not the right pathway. The soul's saying, find a new way. I love it. I love it. Here's to soul aligned.
I'm on you a little bit, Deb, here as well, because something I love about being in your containers as well is that I love to be called forward. Like, I hide. We all hide. We all have our little comfort zones that we're like, I know what to do here. I'm good. And having someone who can see that and like lovingly call you forward and be like, are you ready for this next stage? And to do that in such a loving way that gives you such permission to just lean in and to be held and to feel so safe in that growth and that stretch is so powerful and so potent. So yeah, thank you for calling me forward again and again and again and again.
Celebrating you for letting yourself be called forward, because you have to allow it, and you do. And that's why the coaching works so well for you, because you let yourself be seen, you lean into it, you let it happen, and it happens. And now here you are, launching these incredible offers, expanding your light, making more money as a result, which is just the icing on the cake, because you've got all those deeper pieces already. So I just want to say fuck yes to all of that, and to you. So we'll put the links to Candy's page and her masterclass and the artist. We'll stop calling it that. The step into your purpose.
Activate your purpose.
Activate your purpose. Thank you, my favorite word. But I looked at my masterclasses. I've done over 13 this year. They've all got the word activate in them. I am an activator. Owning it.
You are.
Yeah. So activate your purpose and in anything else that.
All the things.
Everything in there. All right, gorgeous soul. I'll see you tonight on the Soul Seed Call. Can't wait. We've got a firecracker conversation coming up about doing it your way. I feel like we covered quite a lot of it here. Yay. So if you're watching the replay, beautiful souls, because I think everyone's out picking up their kids from school here in New Zealand, let us know what landed. We'd love to know. And do make sure that you follow beautiful Candy Love. Her Facebook page is amazing. So I always feel super inspired by your posts, and I'm your coach. So yay. All right, gorgeous soul. Thank you so much for being here. And we will. Bye, everybody.